Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today's story is about love, trust, hidden lies, and a decision that destroyed many lives. Sometimes the person who makes you feel the safest is the one hiding the darkest secret. This is the story of a woman who believed she had found her forever love, until one ordinary day changed everything. My name is Sophie Carter. I am 28 years old, and I own a small bookstore in Seattle. Books had always been my safe place. They never lied. Every page told the truth, even when the ending was sad. My shop was located on a quiet corner near an old coffee house. Every morning I unlocked the wooden door, arranged the newest books in the front window, and greeted regular customers with a smile. Life wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. And honestly, peace was enough for me. 3 years earlier, my father had walked away from our family without saying goodbye. Since then, I had learned not to expect forever from anyone. Then, I met Ethan Walker. It was a cold autumn afternoon. Rain covered the streets, and very few customers came into the bookstore. The front bell rang softly. A tall man stepped inside wearing a black coat covered with tiny drops of rain. He looked around the shelves as if he wasn't sure why he had come. I smiled politely. "Can I help you find something?" He rubbed the back of his neck and laughed. "I hope so, because I don't read much." I couldn't help smiling. That's an interesting reason to visit a bookstore. "I need a birthday gift for my mother," he admitted. "She loves mystery novels. I don't even know where to start." I guided him toward the fiction section. After a few minutes, he chose 3 books. When I handed him the shopping bag, he looked at me for a moment. "You made that look easy." "It's my job." "No," he smiled. "I think you're just really good at making people feel comfortable." I didn't know why, but those words stayed with me all day. A week later, he returned. This time he wasn't buying a gift. He simply walked around the shop before stopping at the counter. I finished one of the books. "So soon?" "My mother loved it." "And you?" "I accidentally read half of it." I laughed. "So now you're becoming a reader?" "Maybe." After that, he kept coming back. Sometimes he bought books. Sometimes he bought coffee from next door and brought me one too. Sometimes he simply sat near the window reading while I organized shelves. There was never any pressure. Everything happened naturally. One evening after closing time, he asked, "Would you like to have dinner with me?" Normally, I refused invitations from customers. But something about Ethan felt different. He was calm, respectful, patient. So, I said yes. Dinner was simple. A small Italian restaurant. No expensive gifts. No dramatic speeches. Just two people talking for hours. He told me he worked as an interior designer. I told him about losing my father. He listened without interrupting. When I finished speaking, he quietly said, "People who leave don't define your worth." No one had ever said that to me before. That night, for the first time in years, I felt understood. Months passed. Our relationship grew stronger. He remembered everything about me. My favorite coffee. My favorite author. The songs I played while cleaning the bookstore. When I caught the flu, he brought soup. When I was stressed before inventory week, he stayed late helping me organize hundreds of books. Everyone around me liked him. Even my best friend, Rachel. So when she said, "He's a good man," I believed her. Almost a year later, Ethan had become part of my everyday life. He had a key to my apartment. We spent weekends together. We talked about traveling. Sometimes, we even joked about marriage. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect. The first strange moment happened on a Saturday evening. We were putting together a new bookshelf in my apartment. Ethan's phone buzzed on the kitchen table. I wasn't trying to read it. The screen simply lit up beside me. One message appeared. "I already miss you, Red Heart Hash." No name. Just a heart. I frowned. When Ethan walked back into the room, I asked casually, "Someone misses you already?" He looked at the phone, then smiled. "Oh, that's my cousin, MIA. Cousins send heart emojis now?" He laughed. "She's overly emotional." His answer sounded normal, almost convincing. So, I let it go. But after that, little things began changing. He started answering calls outside. Whenever his phone rang, he turned the screen face down. Sometimes he disappeared for hours. His explanation was always the same. Family matters. Or work emergency. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just enough to make me question myself. One afternoon, Rachel visited the bookstore. She noticed my silence immediately. "You've been somewhere else all day." "I'm just tired." She folded her arms. "No. You're worried." I sighed. "I think Ethan's hiding something." "What kind of something?" "I don't know." Rachel looked directly into my eyes. "Sophie." Women usually notice the truth long before they are ready to admit it. Her words stayed in my mind long after she left. A few days later, Ethan stayed at my apartment. Late that night, he went to shower. His phone vibrated again. I stared at it for almost a minute. I did nothing. Then curiosity defeated guilt. I picked it up. The phone was locked, but the notification appeared. Are you finally going to tell her? I can't wait forever. I felt my stomach drop. Tell me. What? Who was waiting? Who wrote that message? Before I could think further, I heard the bathroom door opening. I quickly placed the phone exactly where it had been. Ethan walked toward me wearing a towel around his shoulders. You look pale. I'm just tired. He kissed my forehead. This weekend everything will change. Everything will change? Those words should have made me excited. Instead, they frightened me. The next morning, Ethan left early. I've got something important to do. I forced a smile. Can I come? His answer came too quickly. No. Then he smiled awkwardly. It's family business. Again. Family business. As soon as he drove away, I stood in my apartment thinking, should I trust him? Or trust my instincts? For almost an hour I argued with myself. Finally, I grabbed my car keys. If he was telling the truth, I'd apologize later. If he wasn't, I deserved to know. Keeping several cars between us, I followed him across the city. He never noticed. Eventually, he entered a quiet neighborhood filled with beautiful houses. He parked in front of a cozy white home with a small garden full of colorful flowers. I stopped half a block away. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it. A minute later, the front door opened. A beautiful woman stepped outside. She smiled the moment she saw Ethan. Not the smile of a friend. Not a coworker. The smile of someone deeply in love. Ethan walked toward her. With that, he wrapped his arms around her and kissed her. A slow, comfortable, familiar kiss. The kind shared by people who belonged together. Everything inside me collapsed. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I couldn't breathe. Tears blurred my vision. I kept hoping it wasn't real. But reality doesn't disappear just because it hurts. The woman touched his face lovingly. He laughed. Laughed. As if he had nothing to hide. I quietly started my car and drove away before either of them could notice me. Back at my apartment, I locked the door, then slid down against it until I was sitting on the floor. I cried harder than I ever had before. Not only because my heart was broken, but because I finally understood something terrifying. The man I loved had been living another life. Around noon, Rachel called. The moment I answered, she knew. What happened? That single question broke me. An hour later, she arrived with coffee and chocolate. I told her everything. Every strange message. Every excuse. Every lie. When I finished, Rachel looked furious. He doesn't deserve another chance. What if there's an explanation? She shook her head. Sophie, a loyal man doesn't secretly kiss another woman. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because I had seen it with my own eyes. That evening, a message appeared on my phone. Ethan, dinner tonight at 8. I have something important to ask you. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to block him forever. Another part needed answers. So I replied with only one word. Okay. I had no idea that dinner was about to become the most unforgettable night of my life. The truth no one expected. At exactly 8 o'clock, Ethan arrived outside my apartment. He looked calm, confident, as if nothing had happened that morning. He smiled when I got into the car. You look beautiful. I forced a smile. Thanks. The drive felt painfully quiet. He tried making small conversation, but I answered with only a few words. I wanted to know one thing. How far would he go with his lies? He took me to a beautiful rooftop restaurant overlooking the city lights. Soft music filled the air. Couples laughed around us. Waiters moved quietly between the tables. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. We ordered dinner. I barely touched my food. Ethan noticed. You don't seem hungry. I'm just thinking. He smiled. You won't be thinking about anything else after tonight. Those words made my heart sink. After dinner, he suddenly reached into his jacket pocket. Then, he placed a small velvet box on the table. My breathing stopped. He slowly opened it. Inside was a sparkling diamond ring. Sophie, he said softly, meeting you changed my life. I've never loved anyone the way I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? For several seconds, I simply stared at him. This morning, he had kissed another woman. Tonight, he wanted to marry me. The lies were unbelievable. I was about to answer when someone behind me quietly said, "Ethan." His face turned completely white. I slowly turned around. The same woman from the White House stood behind us. But this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a little boy, around 5 years old. The child looked directly at Ethan and smiled. "Daddy." The single word froze the entire restaurant. My heart stopped. The little boy happily ran toward Ethan. Ethan didn't move. His hands trembled. The woman looked at the open ring box, then looked at me. Pain filled her eyes. Finally, she whispered, "Who is she?" No one answered. The silence became unbearable. I stood up slowly. "I'd like to know that too." The woman looked confused. Then she looked back at Ethan. "Were you proposing?" Still no answer. The little boy tugged Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy." The woman finally understood everything. Tears instantly filled her eyes. She looked at me carefully. "You didn't know." It wasn't a question. I quietly shook my head. "No." Her shoulders dropped. "Oh my God." She whispered. I looked at Ethan. "Tell me. Who is she?" He couldn't speak. Instead, the woman answered, "My name is Olivia. I've been Ethan's wife for 8 years." The world disappeared around me. "Wife?" She nodded. "And this is our son, Noah." I felt my legs weaken. Everything suddenly made sense. The secret phone calls, the disappearing acts, the mysterious messages, the excuses. He wasn't dating 2 women. He was living 2 completely different lives. People around us had stopped eating. Everyone was watching. Ethan finally spoke. "Please. Not here." I laughed bitterly. "Not here? You were planning to marry me here." Olivia looked at the ring again. "You bought another woman a ring." Tears rolled down her face. "I can't believe this." The restaurant manager politely asked us to continue the conversation outside. None of us argued. We walked into a nearby public garden. Olivia called her sister to pick up Noah. 20 minutes later, the little boy left without understanding why his parents were crying. Watching him leave broke my heart. Children always suffer because of adults' mistakes. Rain slowly began falling. We sat under a small shelter. Finally, Olivia looked at Ethan. Start talking. He lowered his head. For the first time. He looked defeated. I never planned for this to happen. Rachel's words suddenly echoed inside my mind. A liar always has an excuse. Ethan continued. When Sophie came into my life, I felt alive again. My marriage had become difficult. I felt lonely. I didn't mean to fall in love. Olivia laughed sadly. You didn't accidentally lie for 2 years. You chose it. I folded my arms. You planned birthdays. You planned holidays. You planned lies. That wasn't confusion. That was a decision. Ethan couldn't deny it. Olivia asked quietly. So what was your plan? He stayed silent. I answered for him. He wanted both. Neither of us looked away. Because we both knew. It was true. He wanted the comfort of his family. And the excitement of another relationship. Without giving up either. Several minutes passed in silence. Finally, Olivia stood. I'm leaving. Ethan quickly stood too. Please don't. She looked straight into his eyes. I trusted you. You destroyed that. There is nothing left. She turned and began walking away. Then suddenly stopped. She looked back at me. I'm sorry. I blinked. You don't have to apologize. She gave me a tired smile. We were both lied to. For the first time that night, I realized she wasn't my enemy. She was another victim. After Olivia disappeared into the rain, only Ethan and I remained. He stepped closer. Sophie, I know you hate me, but I truly loved you. I looked at him calmly. No. You loved having 2 lives. That's different. He tried reaching for my hand. I stepped back. I don't ever want to see you again. His eyes filled with tears. I'll leave everything. It's too late. You should have thought about that before destroying 2 women. Then, I walked away, without looking back. The following weeks were incredibly painful. I cried while opening the bookstore. I cried while making coffee. Sometimes, I cried for no reason at all. Healing wasn't beautiful. It was slow, messy, exhausting. Rachel stayed beside me through everything. She never told me to move on. She simply reminded me every day. You deserved honesty. Almost 2 months later, I looked up. It was Olivia. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then I smiled gently. Would you like some tea? She nodded. We spent almost 2 hours talking. She had already filed for divorce. She was rebuilding her life. Slowly, carefully. She looked stronger than before. Before leaving, she said something I never forgot. He studied people. What do you mean? He listened carefully until he learned exactly what made someone feel loved. Then, he became that person. Those words stayed with me forever. Months passed. I changed apartments. I painted the bookstore. I started traveling on weekends. Little by little, life returned. Not because I forgot, but because I finally accepted that someone else's lies didn't define my future. Nearly a year later, a nervous young man walked into my bookstore. He smiled awkwardly. Hi. I'm looking for a gift for my grandmother. I laughed. I can help. As I wrapped the book, he smiled. I know absolutely nothing about books. For one brief second, the memory of Ethan returned. Then, it disappeared. Because this wasn't him. This was someone completely different. And I realized something beautiful. Not everyone deserves our trust. But someone else's betrayal should never stop us from believing that honest people still exist. Today, when I look back at everything, I don't remember Ethan as the love of my life. I remember him as the lesson that taught me never to ignore my instincts. Real love doesn't hide. Real love doesn't lie. Real love never asks one heart to suffer so another can feel comfortable. Sometimes losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding yourself again.